www.filmcamreview.com. I'm here with another camera today. It's not such an oldie and not as old as certainly any of the other cameras I reviewed, but this is a newer, older camera. This is the Canon Elan 7NE. This is basically Canon's last high-end consumer or prosumer level film camera. This camera was a technological tour de force, as they would say, when Canon came out with it. It was really came out sort of when digital was really starting to break into the market. It was a sort of the last hurrah, I think, for film cameras, or certainly Canon's film cameras. It had a lot of technological features. The media marine was great on it, quick autofocus, and kind of the sort of the cool feature that this camera was famous for was eye control focus. So basically, wherever you look, the camera would focus on that point. And some people had mixed reviews with it. People with glasses had a little bit of trouble with it. I personally really like it. It works well for me. I haven't had any really problems with it. It does have to be calibrated, but once you calibrate it, it does work pretty well. I had this camera a number of years ago, and unfortunately I had sold it or traded it in for a digital camera at the time, but I always regretted getting rid of it. So I've just recently picked this one up. It just came with a kit lens. These cameras could be had very reasonably. I remember when I first bought mine, I paid in the neighborhood of, I think it was like $600 or $700 for it. And I picked this one up very cheaply, and it was in like new condition. I actually had the 7E. The 7NE was a little bit of an evolution in the camera. Mostly the changes that came with it were changes in the finish and some metering changes. But overall, it's pretty much identically the same. It's an identical camera between the 7E and the 7NE. This camera was available without the eye control also, but I figured if you're going to buy the camera, you might as well get it with all the bells and whistles, even considering how cheap the camera is right now, how much you can get it for. I'm seeing these in the neighborhood of $100, sometimes with a lens, sometimes without. This is a very cheap kit lens with it. Certainly no great glass here, but a nice thing about this camera is it does take the Canon autofocus lens, the EF lenses, but it won't take the lenses that have motion stabilization. So if you see those, I think it's the EFS lenses that it won't work with. Yeah, it won't work with those. So you're kind of out of luck with that. But you can get the newer, pretty much any good glass you can get for this camera. Certainly the image stabilization won't work, like I said. So the camera has, again, a lot of nice features. It's the eye control focus, which is great. It has different focus controls. It has one shot. I don't know if you can see it here, AI focus and servo. Those focus modes are pretty fast. This is for the eye control to leave it off, turn the eye control on, or you can calibrate it here. Canon really laid out everything on this camera very nicely. It is a nice setup. If you turn on the camera here, there's a backlight, and it's a blue backlight. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it really is kind of good looking. I do like that. There's tons of programmable features on this camera. You can go through everything. You can do bracketing. You can do, of course, exposure compensation. And that's all done through the menu system, and it's pretty easy to get around. This is not a real tough camera. There are some features in here which are more difficult to find, but you can certainly work your way through that. The one thing that this camera does not have is a spot focus. It has an evaluative smaller focus area, and it has like sort of a full focus setup here. But you're not going to find a real spot focus, which is kind of strange, but I'm not sure why they didn't do that. It does have a single frame, and then you can do a multiple, high speed. That sounds like to me about 3 frames per second or so. I don't know the specs on it in particular, but there is a hot shoe. You can use a TTL flash with it, and it does meter very nicely. the ergonomics on the camera are pretty much the same as most Canon cameras. Here you can make your adjustments for exposure compensation, or you can use the dial in the back. That's up to you. It has to have a lot of pre-programmed functions on it. You can actually do depth of field bracketing on this, which is really nice. And it has a full manual mode, aperture priority, shutter priority program, and then it has the green box mode, which of course, you know, is just kind of put it on there and go. Portrait mode, scenic, macro, sports, and night shot. It is a DX camera, so you don't have to worry about setting any ISO settings, although you can go in and change that manually. It has a rewind button, so if you wanted to rewind the film mid-roll, you can do that. On this camera, I actually have the battery grip. It's the battery back BP300. Again, the whole package, like I said, cost me around $100, but it really makes the camera nice to hold in the hand. I have it in completely green mode, so the flash is an auto pop-up. If you put it in the program mode or aperture priority, of course, that the flash won't come up. But it's a very quiet camera. It really is. It's not too noisy. It's very subtle. This is actually, like, if you want to get into film, want to play around with stuff, want to be able to have full manual control, get good glass, or have automation. It's up to you. This is a nice camera. You know, it's a film camera, so you know your pictures are as good as your film, and your pictures are as good as your glass, and your pictures are as good as your talent, especially the talent. But if you're looking for a camera, you want to get in cheap, you want to get all the technological features, or you want to go fully manual, this is a great camera to do it with. It's highly underrated as far as, you know, in the used market. You see a lot of older cameras, you know, which are durable, certainly, and you certainly have a nostalgic feel to them. But as far as just like getting the job done, this is a great camera. It has some bells and whistles, which are kind of fun to work with. Has a diopter, by the way, for people with eyeglasses. But I can't see really needing any more than this for getting into film photography. Again, it's really quiet. It's not a loud camera by any stretch of the imagination. You know, I would highly recommend this camera. I've taken some of my favorite pictures of all time with this camera. Some pictures I took years ago with my daughter. What a great camera. I really missed it. I'm glad I have it back. Again, you know, the pop-up flash, you can put it up manually if you want, or again, you put it into full auto mode, and it'll do whatever you need it to do. Autofocus assist lamp, which is nice. There's a lot of stuff on the web as far as finding out the features of this. I would recommend looking further into it. Again, another one of these cameras, I highly recommend it. I think it's a great camera. Like I said, I got this one in like new condition, literally. Like, I don't think it had ever been used. It was just pulled out of a bubble wrap bag, and it doesn't look like it had ever been touched. And it's really lovely. It's just a neat camera, and I can't imagine anybody would need any more, especially if you're just getting started in film photography. You have access to all that great Canon glass. Although the lenses are a little bit more money than if you were to go for a full manual camera and get the Canon FD lenses. You can easily transition your lenses from this if you're like a digital Canon shooter, and you want to take those digital, you know, the lenses from that and put them on this camera. You can do that. So once again, great camera, quiet. It's fairly light too. It's really not a big heavy camera, so if you know you don't feel like lugging around a big monster, this is a good camera to do it. I put the battery grip on because I have big hands, but the battery grip comes out very easily, but it makes it a much smaller camera. So you know, if you're looking for, I would say it's about the size of, you know, a digital Rebel, maybe a little bit bigger. But I personally really like having the battery grip. I like the size of it, and for me, if I'm carrying around a digital SLR, I guess I really doesn't matter how physically large it is. Weight can get to you though, but this camera, fully loaded with everything, is not a heavy camera. There we go. Anyway, the Canon Elan 7NE, or the Canon Elan 7E, or the 7. The 7N also. The ones without the E, again, don't have the eye control. Yeah, check them out. Really, really neat camera. Good quality. Metering is nice. I've never gotten, you know, a bad picture unless it was like clearly my fault. Anyway, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoy this. Let me know if you'd like to see more, or what else you're looking for. If I can find a camera that you're looking to review, I will review it. If not, you're more than welcome to send me a camera. I promise I'll send them back if you want me to review it on here. So anyway, that's about it. Brian from oldcamreview.com,